Okay, Roger once again, Mudfossil University, trying to make some sense out of insanity. Now, here we are looking at the Tsar bomb, Russia's biggest nuclear weapon, 57,000 tons of TNT. Just something to explode out here on a nice day. And this is what they did. So let's watch this and think about what Mr. Kim Jong-un may have, because these are hydrogen weapons. And they're not all that sophisticated, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, here's my point, though, is anti-gravity. You see what happens? Anytime you have a nuclear blast, everything becomes sucked straight up in the air. Now, why is that? It blasted, it should have gone everywhere around. You see the whole camera shaking, the whole world is shaking from this baby. Now, you see that? That is where the core is gone. That's the core. It's going up in the air because it has achieved anti-gravity. And the reason it has achieved anti-gravity and went flying up in the air like that was because it was the original blast. Now, I'm going to take you through a nuclear blast. Here we go. Bam, it blew up. How does that happen? How does this occur? You have a mass of matter that is extremely dense. There's a ton of protons closely packed together. And the electrons, of course, are with them, because that's how all matter is, as electrons and protons. Now, but these are extremely big atoms, and they want to break apart and release energy. And then they will rebond with electrons to form new atoms. Now, the nature of a nuclear blast is to take that really tight ball of mass and crush it. And when you do that, the electrons penetrate into the places where they are not allowed. And because it's so forced together, the electrons will repel in such a manner as to flash an extremely bright light that will literally fry anything that is within a certain distance and leave patterns on the ground of dead people and everything, as seen in Hiroshima. And then the next thing that will happen is that core will irradiate enormous amounts of heat energy, and it will rise straight up in the air, as seen here. And this is exactly what happens to everyone, because it has expelled the electrons. Now we're going to go into another a situation where, and you can see up here, you see all those clouds going away from that? Those clouds are repelled because that was a different polarity coming up and forcing those particles here to ionize and display themselves. So let's go further into this, and I'll try to explain why I feel what I'm saying is accurate. Okay, as I've been claiming right along, anti-gravity is nothing more than extremely fast removal of electrons from a mass. Now, in the super cold tests they do with superconducting metals and magnets, they elevate, and the reason they elevate is because the cold is so extreme that it pulls the electrons so fast that they are removed, and the mass becomes anti-gravity, and it will elevate to an exact distance, which is the quantum distance that it takes to pull the electrons away from, I believe, the inner orbitals, and it leaves a blank space between between the nucleus and where the first two electrons are supposed to be on the inner orbitals. I believe those are missing. That is my estimation, and that's a guess, but it looks like it might be true, because it does appear to react to quantum. So now, here we know we have superconductivity is a metal we start with. And then I'll hear somewhere he goes into adding all of this fluid to get it real cold, and it takes him a long time to get it cold. Now, at this point, he adds the magnet. So here it comes out, it's cold, he's getting it colder until a point. Now he adds a magnet. Now here it begins to elevate, and he shows that he can slide something underneath. But that has elevated to an exact distance And that is the quantum distance characterized by the first two orbitals, I believe, closest to the nucleus have been stripped. That is my estimation. And the cold is so extreme, it is pulling electrons so fast. You can see them being removed because it's vaporizing the air. The literal ether in the air is being dragged away and turning into, adding electrons to the nitrogen to expose it and to be seen as a vapor. All right, I don't know why they remove audio track on this, but it says a copyright claim. I don't know. But this guy did some really strange work, and what he was doing was, you see this here? He's regulating these things. Look, anti-gravity. He can make these things do insane things just by, look, the fluid. See that? Watch this. Now, I'm going to explain to you what he's doing here. You see what he's doing? I can tell you what he's doing here. Well, I'm almost certain to what he's doing. He's sending out frequency. He's got these electronic devices that regulate frequencies. A frequency is nothing more than a wave. And that wave is normally way like this, and the electrons are so close together, the wave doesn't even affect the electrons. But he has he's making waves that are so short, and so he's making the electrons shake, like this, and throwing those electrons off, which are those two lowest orbital electrons, the s orbital electrons that are the lowest ones down next to the nucleus. He's spinning them off there into the other parts of the atom and drawing those electrons away. And he claims that he sees all of these little flashing red and green lights and things all over the place. And I've seen them too when they do the sonoluminescence. And I'm going to go through a couple more things to show you the proof that I'm, evidence anyway, that I'm claiming that supports what I'm saying. So let's continue on a little further. But you saw these things rising. Nobody's disputing this. They just have no clue how it happens. Okay, this is Latham's Crazy Machines, and it's a toy, but it's exactly what I want to demonstrate. You see what it's doing? He's stuck to that thing. He's stuck. He's shaking, and it'll stay there until he shakes so hard that it is thrown away. That is the nature of the interaction I'm talking about with the electrons in their orbitals. And normally you cannot shake those. They're sort of a mass that's stuck there, and any shaking that goes on is so vast that it has no effect on the electrons. But Hutchison is shaking this so much in that little short distance where the electron, in this case that was a little magnet, was held, that it forces it to go away. Or he was probably able to just push it gently off by increasing that standing wave. That's the only thing I can say. And I'm just guessing, so I'm not making any major claims here, but what I see is what I see, and I think it should be investigated because what I'm seeing I think makes sense. All right, these are the slow-mo guys, best guys you're ever going to see. And they're very intelligent, and they did a very good a synopsis of what this actually was. They understand that there is a volume that is missing inside and somehow became replaced and made an additional explosion. And we're going to follow this through. They put a firecracker down inside the water. This is going to display sonoluminescence. It will go off. Now remember this. This one here is like the outside. There's a different focus on this. So this one focuses more deep inside where the explosion occurs. This is more of a broad look at the thing. So let's go forward with this now. So they shoot it off. Boom, there it goes. So here's the deep inside part, and here's what we see on the outside of this thing here. Now you can see what happens. It's beginning to expand. Now if you look inside here, you realize this now, the mechanical or the chemical energy that was expended by the firecracker has now pretty much used up as much energy as it had, and that is it here. Now we have an expanded area which leads ahead of the chemical expansion, the chemical explosive expansion, and now we have a layer here which is a void. It's a vacuum, and it is inside water, and water is extremely fluid, obviously, and that fluidity is caused by electrons. And those electrons now are filling this void. Not molecules. Electrons. They're not complete molecules. These are the electrons, the things that I say we're trying to get rid of to create anti-gravity. Hutchison says when he does his little zzz and he regulates, he starts seeing things lift, the lights start flashing in the room. Now look at this. Watch up here, and you are going to see the same thing that he's talking about. We're going to be seeing, you see the little flashing lights? I don't know if you can see that in here. But if you can, that's really important. These are the flashing little lights that are the electrons. You see it? Now, this will come back, and you will see these electrons have nowhere to go. For some reason, they can't get back into the water, and it's crushing them down, and they will begin to boil. You'll actually see it. You see this? That really looks like boiling water, doesn't it? You see it? All right, now, this is beginning to get crushed so hard, it says, what am I going to do with these electrons? Well, they have no place to go. For some reason, it will not allow them back into the water. There's something called hydrophilic and hydrophobic action, and that separates almost like a cellular membrane, and I believe that's what's happening. Again, I can't prove this. I'm just looking, and I'm trying to get people to look at this stuff. That's all. I'm not making any, I'm not saying that I know every little bit about it, but anyway, that, I believe, is the boiling electrons. Now watch it carefully. All right, it's coming down, and it just can't take it anymore. It gets so brilliant. Look at that. That's like a nuclear explosion right now. Literally, it's an electronic explosion, not the nuclear particles, but the electronic particles. And they have nowhere to go, and they will violently expel themselves. And here they go. Poof, gone. All right, so now, let's go out here to a further place. Now we're going to watch and what happened on the surface. All right, so here we are on the surface. The firecracker has just gone off, and we're seeing the original poof like that. And then it will start to settle back down again. Then you're going to see that secondary explosion, which is the collapse of the electrons, where they have nowhere to go. And then you will see all these glittering particles show up here because they're expelling electrons. Now watch. And this water will rise out of here afterwards in extremely high because it's going into anti-gravity. Watch what happens. Now it's going to collapse a little bit. See it come back down? And all of a sudden, you'll see the rest of it go off. In a second, boom, here we go. Now that is the sono part. Now look at you'll see the little colored lights and stuff. You'll see them start flashing in here if you can. All right. So anyway, it's hard to see that last little bit, but trust me, it's sending them out of here and making them glow, and that's the sonoluminescence. All right, now I'm going to try to explain there's two different ways of achieving anti-gravity. We talked about compressing all the electrons, all these little things in here so tight that this guy says, no, you can't stay here. You got to get out of here. You're supposed to be only out there. And there's so many of these big, gigantic things and so many electrons with them, and they're crushed into such a small place, you end up with almost nothing but nucleuses. All of these are expelled in that flash of light. Now, what is the other way of achieving anti-gravity? It's the same way John Hutchison did it, which is to vibrate the electrons in these inner orbitals away. And I believe it pushes an electron here or there out into the atmosphere to create these little flashy lights, and I will show you those in actual demonstrations. Now, so how does Hutchison make these electrons get away from here? They're stuck here. I mean, they are stuck there. They are not supposed to be further away or closer. What he does is he's got these little frequency vibrators, and they shake the electrons in the air and everywhere. So he turns them, and you get that really extremely screaming noise. Well, he gets it so screaming that he shakes this distance from here to here. Usually the wave is so long that this thing doesn't even know there's a wave. But if you can make this thing shake so many times that it can create a standing wave, they call it, which is it's just a singular wave, but it stays there. It doesn't go this way and that way and so forth. It's a standing wave, so it goes like this, and it stays there. And then you can elongate that wave, push it out there, and you have anti-gravity, and that's what he's done. That's my impression. You'll see what you think. Alright, I know nobody knows me, and I'm fine with that, and I don't have any special credentials, but trust me, I've been doing this a very long time, and I was started with the semiconductor industry, and it's stuff that I do. I have some idea what I'm doing here, so I just want you to know that this is not, I'm just not running my mouth with no abilities, alright? Okay, now that you got a basic understanding of what I'm talking about, Mudfossil University is where you want to go. This is free. It's no charge. You go up there, and if you don't like what you see, you just take it for a grain of salt. If you see something that interests you, look into it. We found new species. We're understanding the different reasons of the colors of the rocks and different why minerals respond the way they respond. We're looking into how the ancient walls were built of these stones that fit together so well. It appears to be that they were made out of pliable stones. We're looking into all of the different things that have been just refused to be looked at. And even Harvard is validating our research. They've done their analysis of light through a grid, and so have we through a Venturi, and it's virtually the same. We're showing gravity and anti-gravity, as you've seen in this, and we're going through everything, and all the rocks and the stones, the myths and the histories, and gold, where to find gold, and where the water comes from, and Petra, and you just go in there and enjoy yourself. Get your friends, have a mud fossil soiree. Trust me, it will be the most exciting night of your life.